Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live lounge. We've got an esteemed guest with us this evening, joining us for our first volume of our guest session streams. Hopefully, we'll be running these every week throughout the FPL season and bringing you kind of bigger guests. Well, there's not many bigger than this guy. This is JIAN. He is the thread king of Twitter, as everyone may know him as. Any thread that you may have read on Twitter probably stemmed from one of his. Gian, great to have you on tonight, mate.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be on. I'm honored to be the first guest, and I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, hopefully, I think if I can give you some questions and you can steer me in a better light, you seem to have much more knowledge than I do at this point with some of them threads. I don't think I'd take the time to write the length of some of them.
Yeah, I mean, today's one was pretty long, but you've been playing FPL for 15 years, so I wouldn't be surprised if you have a brilliant knowledge bank yourself.
Oh, great stuff, mate. So I'll jump into it. I've got a couple of questions first off, just about the threads and stuff like that. So when you, especially like the Gameweek1, you leaning into writing one of those. How long does it kind of take to plan, write, and obviously then get it into Twitter? Do you write it separately beforehand, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I've been doing them for like 3.5 years now. So as you can imagine, the actual process of getting them done has been quite efficient.
Yeah.
With regards to most of my threads, if I'm going to use data, it's more data that I've heard, picked up from the timeline and stuff. I don't actually go and crunch numbers, so there's no time spent there. Most of the, I guess, quote unquote research is just my own perspectives from when I watch games. Like I'll go away and watch a bunch of highlights in preseason, right? Because you're not going to watch every preseason game. I'll watch a bunch of highlights, make my deductions from them, and I just store them mentally. I don't really write anything down. And then when devising the thread, it's like I always focus on the framework. So I think, okay, what chapters am I going to get through? What is going to help people? And from there, I just write. Like today, when I was setting it up, I knew that I was going to do Haaland versus Salah, and I just started writing. I didn't know what I was going to say before, but the ideas just kind of flow generally. I'll have a very rough basis of what I'm going to do, but when I'm writing, the ideas kind of just flow. You get into flow state as writers stay. So in that sense, it's not too challenging. And then depending on the length, I think maybe 2.5 tops, absolute tops, but you can get it done in like 1.5. I've got some pretty lengthy threads done in 1.5 because, like I said, I don't have to research anything. I just
It's all coming off.
regurgitating
Yeah.
what. Yeah.
That's great. And so when you don't literally just start kind of typing away and then see where you end up, or do you find yourself deleting some stuff because you've wrote too much, or
Oh yeah, for sure. Like when I have a framework, like I said, so it's almost like filling the gap, and then I'll kind of just let my ideas flow. But yeah, I'll definitely like write it and be like, I don't like the sound of that, or I could make it sound better, a better point, etc., etc. And then I'll take it from there.
perfect? I'll be honest, they've definitely kind of steered me in the right direction for most of the last 3 years, to be honest, mate, and probably
No, I,
steered
I
me.
didn't realize you read them.
Yeah, and steered me off some dodgy transfers. I'll be honest. Some of the ones that I've thought about making, and then read one of your threads and kind of thought, oh yeah, maybe I should rethink that, or definitely. So it's definitely helped me, and if it's helped me, it's probably helped a ton of others in there. Now with yourself playing FPL, how long have you been playing? What's your highest rank?
Yeah, so not long, to be honest. I think I've only played like 5 years seriously. I'm on the younger side compared to most content creators. I'm 22. So yeah, my rank history is not that good. It's pretty average, like 39k. So I'm hoping to have a good season this time around.
Jeez, I'll be honest. I only broke the 100k for the first time last year. I've come close. I've finished around like 101,000, 102,000. I think 110,000. But last year I think I finished about 60k, so it was a real feel good season, to be honest. I
Yeah,
captained Foden on the last day last year
sorry.
to boost me up the ranks, so that was a good one. And then so for you in terms of obviously your content, just to give the guys a bit of a background, do you want to just share kind of where you do your content, as well as I know you're known for kind of your Twitter threads, but I think you've got a bit of a YouTube channel going on.
Yeah, so the last month I essentially ramped up the YouTube production. I made 4 videos at the end of the back season just to kind of test it out. But now I'm going quite hard with it. There's a lot of video production going on there, so you can find me at FPLG and BATRA on my own YouTube channel.
Perfect, great stuff. So yeah, hopefully you'll see a lot of GN stuff as well on his channel, and hopefully once I potentially start doing some videos, if I can figure out the editing side of stuff, then we'll both be posting hopefully some good quality content But yeah, any threads on Twitter, JIAN's definitely your man. Right, so let's kick into a bit of FPL chat, I suppose. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about ourselves there and what's going on. First off, I kind of want to just chat through the fixtures and get an initial thought from you before we dive into any kind of drafts or anything like that. So, obviously, we've got United versus Fulham tomorrow night. I think initially, probably when the fixtures come out, people weren't that excited. Obviously, I'm saying that as a Liverpool fan, that was going to be the opening game, and from an FPL point of view, there didn't look like there was going to be too many options in that game. Obviously, now we've kind of got Ahmed. If he starts, Fernandez is being picked up by a lot of people now. You've got Emile Smith Rowe with Fulham, Muniz still there. What are your thoughts on that game? As the opening game?
Yeah, so FOMO's starting to kick in a little bit with regards to Bruno Fernandes. I can see the game actually being really open. Obviously, like you've got United's 4-2-4 press, and one thing I thought they played pretty decently against City, but one thing I did observe, and I thought City didn't take advantage of, was the distance between the lines. I thought they were pretty big, and then having a two of Maino and Casemiro, one is really young, so his legs are going to tire quicker than others, and then one who's obviously on the older side, and we saw the problem with his legs and just general athleticism towards the back end of last season. I just wonder if Fulham could exploit that quite a bit when United decide to press high and throughout the game. But then on the flip side, like Fulham definitely have some defensive issues. Marcus Silva's spoken about them. Tosin Adrabayo's left. They haven't replaced Palhinha, etc., etc. Right?
Yeah.
So I could definitely see goals there. Not owning Bruno, I don't love it. I think obviously he's such a good pick in terms of the fundamentals. But then the flip side is United's build-up structures have been pretty poor for a while now, and I don't know why, but he doesn't really seem to be changing it. So with that in mind, is he still going to be able to generate the volume of chances
Yeah.
within the game for himself that would suggest that he performs really well? And I'm not sure. So for now, I'm fading, but I think there could be goals in that game, and I wouldn't be surprised if pretty much everyone does well.
Yeah, FOMO is really kicking in with Fernandez. When we come on to drafts, I'll talk a little bit about that for myself. And then on to Saturday, really. Obviously, the bulk of the fixtures on Saturday. Liverpool, Ipswich initially. I actually think it'll be a difficult game for Liverpool away, promoted team. I am going to say the dreaded 12:30 kickoff. I just think it'll be a tough game for Liverpool. I still see them coming away with a win, but maybe a hard fought 2-1, maybe a 3-1 when the game gets stretched towards the end potentially. But what are your thoughts on that game?
A very, very similar perspective to yourself. So what I would say is like it makes sense that the 12:30 kickoffs are always a bit awkward. I don't think footballers' bodies are like massively adjusted to playing at that time compared to when they used to. So
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense having to put a bunch of passes down your throat at 9 a.m. Probably offsets the feeling a little. And then, like you said, the ground will be bouncing. They haven't been in the Prem for ages. They're actually, of the three promoted sides, they're comfortably the best in my opinion, from what I've researched. They've had a pretty decent preseason as well. And that's another thing. They'll have some confidence of form going into that. I did read a bit about McKenna and how he was willing to adapt. So with all those things in mind, Slot's first game as well, I'm not like, I don't expect it to be a whitewash.
Yeah. I hope it is. Don't get me wrong. I hope it's a 6-0 win for Liverpool, but I just can't see it. One of the other Saturday games they kind of pick out as maybe there's a few assets in there is probably Newcastle Southampton. Obviously, Isak being the highest owned player in the game. Obviously, a lot of people now are jumping on Anthony Gordon, Lewis Hall, seen as though Livramento doesn't look nailed, and I've seen Brereton Diaz start to kind of roll through as obviously Bob's been injured and people are starting to just get to that point of tinkering where they're looking for a different option. So yeah, there's a few in that game that could be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, with Brereton Diaz, I really enjoyed owning him last season. I rate him as a player. I just don't want anyone from Southampton, to be honest with you. I think unless they really get their, you know, philosophy across within the Premier League, which I think can be very difficult to do when you don't have the same type of talent that some of the better teams do. I'm not sure they're going to be able to translate what they did in the Championship and score a lot of goals. Newcastle, I can just see putting them away. I mean, you've got Isak, potentially Gordon if you'd like to go there at 7-5. And then, like you mentioned, Lewis Hall was definitely someone I'm looking at. I really like his attacking prospects and what he could do in that team. So with all that in mind, I'm quite bullish on Newcastle for that fixture.
Perfect, great news. And then I'll jump onto Sunday's game. Well, I know there's two, Brentford Crystal Palace, so not to kind of play that down, but we've got Chelsea City at 4:30. Tons of assets in that game. Obviously, from a Chelsea point of view, they've literally got tons of assets. And then from a City point of view, obviously, There's the Norwegian robot up top, and then kind of we don't really know what we're going to see in midfield from Man City, and even at the back, I think. So again, I think that'll be a pretty open game. Hopefully, no Rodri in there for City will help that. But yeah, are you going near Chelsea early on, or giving them a wide berth?
I'm tossing between Nkunku and Eze, but for the first time in I think a long time, I've got Nkunku back. I think he's going to play at 9 against City. I can't, just in my opinion, I don't think Jackson will start from the off, given his limited, very limited preseason. I doubt he'll play Mark Gay against City as well. So I think Nkunku will lead the line. And can I really pass up a 6.5 million Nkunku that starting up front for Chelsea with a decent run of long-term fixtures? Probably not. So yeah, I'm quite happy to have him, and then obviously I'll have Haaland as well.
Great stuff. And then finally for the Monday night game, obviously I know we've got Leicester Spurs, but there's only one question: are you Solanke or no Solanke?
No, but that's because I've got Son.
Ah, okay. Okay, so again, I was on Son very early, and then kind of obviously slowly backed out of that as that Solanke transfer become a bit closer and a bit more to fruition. But I could see that game being a generous cricket score, I think, to Spurs. I think Leicester just look like they're going to be the them and Southampton just don't look like they're going to be able to stop goals going in, I don't think.
Yeah, I think Spurs could absolutely slap him. I mean, I had Pedro Porro in for a long time. I can still get Pedro Porro in my draft if I wish. It just really compromises the structure. I've thought a lot about Solanke, and we'll discuss him when it comes to my draft, because I'll need to explain a few other things. But yeah, I'm super bullish on Spurs in the opening weeks. I mean, Leicester away, Everton at home, and then even Newcastle away. I love that fixture for their attackers. So yeah. I'm super bullish for Spurs at the moment.
Perfect. Well, on that note, you segue perfectly there. Let's jump onto the draft. So, I've got both our drafts up on the screen, so we'll talk through yours first. So we'll go through kind of line by line. So you've got Cells in there at the moment. Just love the fixtures.
Love the fixtures. I mean, by the models, the fixture tickers, it suggests he has the best 3. For me, on paper, they're brilliant. I mean, they're the perfect type of fixtures to get a haul as well, not just a clean sheet. There's no real good fixture, I think, in the Premier League anymore to get a clean sheet unless you're like an Arsenal or Man City. Even Liverpool, I'm not super confident going into any game. So to have 3 nice fixtures is great, and especially ones where you can get hauls.
Yeah.
I strongly dislike all of the 4.5s. I dislike Henderson. I hate the idea of having Flecken. I'm not interested in spending any more. So for me, it's an easy pick there.
Perfect. And then, so I know we touched on Lewis Hall a little bit. Your back line, you've got Hall, Kwanzaa, Gabriel starting, and then you've got Barco and Robinson on the bench.
Yeah, so Barco and Robinson. Well, Robinson's to play 2 and 3.
Yeah.
With the 2 promoted side. Then Barco plays 4 at Ipswich at home. The thinking with Kwanzaa is if I'm not going to have Trent, I don't really want Kwanzaa. And he's probably the only player on my team where I'm taking it a little bit less risky. I was thinking about going for a Nottingham Forest double up at the back. But if I'm not going to own Trent, and I think his output will be slightly reduced from what it has in other seasons, then it's such a nice way to cover the risk. There's no real reason for me to get too aggressive at that range when I'm being presented with such a gift. So yeah, that's why I've got Kwanzaa. Lewis Hall, I really like his attacking prospects Gameweek1. I can rotate him nicely with how my side's lined up. He helps me in weeks that I need to with his defensive structure. So I think his minutes will be good early term. And then Gabriel, if you watch any of my content, listen to any of my content, Reddit, I just think the best set piece taking team in the league. He'll have multiple attempts at goal, or multiple chances to score from set pieces in a game, and he plays for the best defense in what I would say is the world. I like the fixtures in Gameweek 1 and 3. I think they're somewhat fixture proof, so I'm not too bothered about Villa either. And then I can just keep him for basically forever.
Yeah, perfect. I think he's definitely my pick of the Arsenal defenders. I know, obviously, I've seen some people looking at kind of short-term Zinchenko. I've seen a couple of people obviously going with Saliba, mainly because of ownership and because he is obviously highly owned. He got the goal of the weekend, and people seem to think maybe he's maturing into a goal-scoring centre-half as well, which in that Arsenal side, I think any of that back four, once Calafiore's in there, they're going to be getting goals all season because they're a massive side now, I think, with those 4 in there. And then onto your midfield, so we've got obviously Son, Smith Rowe, Nkunku, Saka, and then we've got little old Harry Winks third on the bench.
Yeah, so Harry Winks is there, just nice 4.5. I'm really not big on having 8 attackers. I don't like it at all. I think especially this season where the player pool's so big and you really need to optimize your team wherever you can. I'm just not a fan of having rotating attackers. especially when there's players who genuinely have good fixtures from the off that you can hold for the medium to long term. So that's that. In regards to the others, I mean, I'm so bullish on Arsenal. I think they score minimum 10 in their first four. And with that in mind, I just have to have Saka as arguably the biggest goal threat, but certainly the biggest points threat, I would say, at the attack. Penalties, set pieces, 90 minutes. In that side, I can't really ask for much more. Son, I love the opening fixtures, the first three. I really just would like a nailed bit of that Spurs attack. So I'll take the guy as the best finisher on penalties. In Kunku, we spoke about earlier, good long-term fixtures, potentially playing in a brilliant position. And as a player, he's so good. I think the English audience probably still don't appreciate how good of a player he is due to the fact that he's been injured since his time here. And then Smith Rowe, I needed a facilitator, and I thought, what better than a guy who's got genuine goal threat, plays in a position that I really liked from what I watched in preseason. I really liked the positions he was taking up. He wasn't dropping in too much. He really was a 10. And the other thing is the fixtures from 2 onwards are quite nice.
And then, so you've gone the two £10 million midfielders with Son and Saka. Is the hit in having a second premium defender and then maybe being able to upgrade Smith Rowe potentially? Is that where you've kind of took the hit to be able to afford both of them?
Yeah, so the actually, if you look at the front line is pretty strong as well. The only place I've really taken a hit is just not having a second premium. But I could just take the money out of Robinson and downgrade Quansah to upgrade Lewis Hall to Pedro Porro.
Yeah.
But then I would be stuck with a 4.0. So yeah, I guess really it's just the fact that I don't have a premium defender. But I'm not super bullish on Guardiola. The only one I would really like to have is Saliba, but then I also want double Arsenal attack, so it doesn't work.
Yeah, perfect. And then finally onto that attack that you've just mentioned is really strong. You've got obviously Isak, Haaland, and then you've got Kai Havertz in there. Start off Kai Havertz. I'm assuming you're really bullish on him as well.
Yeah, so Kai Havertz is the reason that everything has been sacrificed. Because realistically, I could just go Havertz to Solanke, save point 0.5. If I have that piece of the Spurs attack, I could sell off Son, and then move him to an Eze that everyone likes, move him to a Bruno, and still have 2 mil left in the bank at least to spend elsewhere. I'd be able to get double Arsenal defense. But the reason I'm not willing to do that is, whilst I'm open to selling Son for Solanke, I'm just not open to not having Havertz. I think 90-minute man in your first four, brilliant in the big games when he plays at 9. So against Villa and Spurs, where he's got space to exploit in behind, I think top guy to have. In this left 8 role this season, I think it'll be slightly different, and his output will be far safer. So yeah, that's the guy that really is causing all the sacrifices, is Kai Havertz.
Perfect. And currently got the armband on Haaland. Is that definitely going to stay, or are we looking at Isak, maybe Son, or one of the Arsenal boys?
Yeah, so for the first time, literally for the first time last night, I hadn't thought about it for 1 second. I was like, is Haaland really the best choice? I mean, he probably has the worst fixture out of all of them, right? Almost definitely.
Yeah.
So do I want to go there? I could go so many other places, like you said. I think I'm still going to toss that up. I haven't given it as much thought, given it such a fresh thought. I probably will do tonight. I'm just not sure I want to take that type of risk early on. Like, I already don't have the Salah captain because I won't even own him. Do I really want to go against both the big boys Gameweek1? I actually did it last year. I captained Martinelli and I lost 8 points on it. So I'm not too sure what I'll do, but I'll probably just keep it on Haaland for safety's sake.
So what you're telling me is you've got a record of being bullish on Arsenal and fallen short, have you? Is that what it is?
You know what? It's the first time I thought of that. I didn't actually realise that. It's the first time I thought of that. You know what? Maybe I learned from my mistakes and I picked the right assets this time.
Yeah, maybe. So I'm going to jump onto my draft, and then obviously I'll talk you through it and obviously pick it apart as you see fit, and probably I'll jump on the picks really that we haven't got in common. So first off, in goal, I have got Henderson. Similar reasons to you is I hate all of the goalkeepers, to be honest. The only ones I like really are in the 5 bracket. I like Pickford, I like Pope, but I just don't want to be spending that extra 0.5 on a space that I just don't really see that important this season. I've got Lewis Hall for similar reasons to you in the back line. Think he's could be one of the most attacking left backs in the league. Think his output could be really good if he gets a prolonged run in that Newcastle side, and I think that spot is his to lose now. I don't think there's much negative about Hall really. I've then got Trent. Again, I've toyed with Trent, and this is something I want wanted to run past you. So I've got Trent, and I've also got Barco, Robinson, and Konza. Just because the 3 4.5s rotate really well. I've currently got Barco starting for Game week 1 for that Everton fixture, and then as I said, the rest rotate really well for the coming weeks. I have toyed with the idea of doing Trent down to Gabriel, and then doing Konza up to Pedro Porro potentially, and then doing Robinson to Konza basically. So I'd have a similar backline to yourself, although I'd have Porro instead of Robinson effectively. I'm really toyed with that, but not too sure. What are your thoughts on that in terms of Gabriel and Porro versus Trent and Konza?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely close. I obviously just given my bullishness on Arsenal and the fact that I really like the Spurs fixture. I think Porro could do really well Game week 1. He's one of the players that I'm not best pleased that I don't get to own. Leicester have obviously got a lot of injuries. They've lost Drewbury Hall, Ian Nacho's left. So with all that in mind, their attacking output definitely will be stifled, right? So his clean sheet probability goes up. He's so integral when they go forward. He gets so much of the ball for a defender. His ball striking from range is brilliant. He has set pieces. So I think Porro could do great. And then, like I said, I think Trent's brilliant. I have nothing bad to say about Trent. I just don't know if he's going to justify the 7 million tag when the others are quite a bit cheaper. If they were only like 0.5 cheaper like Ben White, then fair enough. But given they're like 1.5 cheaper, I think like he'll be brilliant, but I'm just not sure he's worth the price yet.
Perfect. And then, so I go in midfield. I do have an 8th attacker, so my midfield is currently Smith Rowe, Gordon, Saka, Luis Diaz, and Minter, or Minte from Brighton. And I've got Minter and Smith Rowe basically rotating across the first kind of 6 fixtures, really. They rotate really nicely. I think it's Everton away from Inter, Fulham's 2 decent fixtures, and then I think Brighton have got nice fixtures in 4 and 5. And then back to Fulham in 6. So thoughts on them? So Minter, Gordon, Saka, and Diaz starting at the moment with Smith Rowe on the bench.
Yeah. So firstly, no one's come to me and shown me that rotation of specifically Smith Rowe and Minter. I've seen a Brighton Fulham rotation, but not that one. I really like it. They're by far my favourite 2 cheap midfielders. I think output-wise, you should be absolutely fine. So I actually really like that strategy. Then you've got Luis Diaz, who I'm not a fan of the pick because I don't trust his output enough compared to others in his category, right? You can even get Eze for cheaper. You can get Nkunku for cheaper, and I think they're more reliable. And minutes-wise, maybe. You never really know with Diaz what kind of type of phase the team's going through or what the manager's thinking with regards to him, like who's going to play on the left. Is Nunes ever going to play on the left? Is Jota ever going to play on the left? Is he ever going to get hooked, etc., etc., right? So I don't love the pick, but I understand it. I definitely understand it.
Yeah, he is in there purely because of the pre-season for Liverpool. Obviously, I've watched kind of every minute of pre-season. Even obviously, Luis Diaz got 2 at the weekend, and it kind of looked like recency bias after the pick went in. But what it was to me was kind of confirmation that left wing spot, where Salah does seem to be playing wider and more of a facilitator, especially with Szoboszlai charging through that kind of that section of the pitch down the side of the centre half and keeping Salah wide. It looks like Diaz is going to play a similar role to what Minter played for him, or that left wing anyway. He's going to play a similar role to what Minter did for him at Feyenoord, where they're going to be very direct and they're going to be coming through that inside channel. And I definitely seen Carvalho in that left wing position early in pre-season for Liverpool do really well and get really involved with goals, assists, and be integral to the play. So it is a bit of a punt, I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of Diaz's output and kind of his FPL. His FPL output really and the points he's gained in previous seasons. But it is a bit of a punt. Now, one question on my midfield that I did have, and we have touched on it.
Can I just make a point about that?
Of course, yeah.
You know what? You really opened my thinking up there. I think it's a much better pick than I probably gave it credit for. I remember doing some research into Feyenoord, and I know that he had an asymmetric structure whereby the left winger was a lot more central and half-space orientated than the right, so that's a good point. He doesn't have too much competition, I guess, because Nunes and Hotz are probably competing for that 9. The fixtures are good. You know what? You've changed my mind. I retract the statement. I honestly do. I think that's really sound reasoning. No one's talked about Luis Diaz, and I think that's a really good original point, actually. Yeah, that's solid. Oh, solid.
Well,
Solid shout.
now I'm going to ask you, should I get rid of him? So one of the things I've been toying with, to be honest, is
Mm.
Gordon and Diaz to Nkunku and Fernandez.
Mm.
That is kind of obviously the perfect price. It's a straight match, and where Diaz does have that kind of punty nature to him, where he could get 60 minutes in the first game. I feel like Nkunku and Fernandez are really solid, nailed, decent fixtures, kind of the fundamentals of FPL really compared to Gordon and Diaz in these early weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely taking a risk by going Gordon and Diaz because I guess you expect Gordon to start Gameweek 1, maybe an early
Yeah,
sub. I also was literally about to say after Diaz, I was like, I really like the Gordon pick. He's another player that I wish I could have. I think he's going to do really well. It's just the fact that do I need to double up him and Isak early on? Probably not when I haven't seen the whole landscape. I'm inclined to tell you, after you sold Diaz so well, honestly, I was a salesman's pitch at finest. I think you might have to keep him. Like,
yeah,
I'm not sure I would do it. I think I would go Bruno and Nkunku. But, like, I definitely see yours having maybe a little bit more upside, to be honest with you. And the fact that it's differential. And the fact you're a Liverpool fan, you really like it.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
go for it. Go for it, go for it.
Perfect. Good news. That's what I needed. That was that confirmation bias that I needed.
Did Diaz
Um,
get hooked early? No, right? Like, in under slot? Or no, not really?
um, so at the weekend. Obviously, that was his first game underslot at the weekend.
Mm.
But everyone did really. Everyone who'd come back anyway. In the second game, Nunez and Gakpo both got hooked. Um, but yeah, so it's more. I'm kind of banking on Slot carrying his tactics over and really. Um, I feel Diaz has got a very similar profile to Minter in terms of kind of what abilities he's got.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot of age difference in them, but I'm hoping Diaz is a very direct winger instead of someone like Gakpo or Jota really to play on that left
Mm.
side. So, yeah, as I said, it's a punt and it's kind of something I'm feel really strongly about. But definitely, as I said, as I get close to the deadline, the FOMO and kind of I don't know the kind of old head of FPL in the back of my brain saying no, go Fernandez, go Nkunku, and kind of take your points and just run to week 2 with your 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's such a difficult conundrum. I think this year more than most because it's so punishing to get it wrong this year. And I don't think this will be like last year. You know where like if you're a good player, you have a bad start, whatever, doesn't matter, you'll catch up, all good, right? This year I don't think that'll be the case
Yeah,
because player pool's just always getting tougher year on year. Not only the more players, but everyone's becoming better. People are starting just I guess the general population starting to enjoy FPL a bit more. Look at the amount of content and the views it gets. Like I think you're in big trouble if you start badly. So from that perspective, yeah, I could understand. But if you get in front, you can definitely stay in front by playing a bit safer after that.
yeah, and then so going on to my forward line, we've both got Isak and Haaland, and then I have got Solanke. I had him for a large portion of last year. Obviously, performed really well for Bournemouth, and I just think in this Tottenham side, I seen Richarlison get tons of chances last year playing in the 9, and Son never really being in the right positions for a number 9 last season, and I just think he's nailed on to, even if he gets 60 70 minutes that first game, I think he's nailed on to just be fed chances all day long really and stick them away.
Yeah, I love Solanke. When I was frustrated with my team, the only thing I could think about was how I wish I could play 3-3-4 and have Solanke and Havertz together. I love the Solanke pick. I mean, a number 9 in the AN system will never, ever, ever be a bad pick in FPL. It
Yeah,
will be at least a good pick, but I think he could be a brilliant pick. The only thing is Richarlison's not really the type of guy to take it lying down. I can't imagine he just sulks in training and doesn't do anything. Thus, I could see him getting, 20 minutes off the bench each game. And that's a lot. Like, 20 minutes really is a lot, especially
yeah.
when the game is becoming a lot more expected minutes orientated. So, with that in mind, do I want to take that risk when I can have it to 8? No, personally. But I cannot critique it in any way, shape, or form because I understand all the upsides and the appeals to it.
Great stuff. That's all good news about my draft. Really, I'm really happy there. I thought I was going to
Yeah,
come away with 5 or 6 changes needing to be made, but
that's solid.
spot on. So pretty much now we've gone through the drafts. What I'm going to jump to is kind of the feature I'm going to be running this year, where I'm going to ask every guest to come up with a free hit team, and then effectively just run a bit of a league table, see who the best guest is, content creator, whoever I have on across the season, and kind of see who can predict the best free hit team. So I'll jump over to your free hit team now. Obviously, at the end of this week you will be de facto leader, so you will be first place in the league, so you'll be pleased to know. And then hopefully, looking at the team you've picked, to be honest, you could really stay there. We've got again Sells in goal, which we've talked about in your draft, so you're really bullish, especially I'm assuming on that Bournemouth fixture you really fancy Forest.
I wouldn't say I really fancy Forest. I just say I fancy Forest more than I fancy Henderson, Flecken, Pickford, those lot. I actually like Pope, though. I hadn't thought about Pope, but when you brought him up, like a light switch went off in my head, and I was like, it could be a good choice, actually.
Yeah, and then obviously in your back three, with this being a free hit team, we can pretty much just ignore the bench as well, by the way, because it's basically just nobodies.
Yeah.
But in defence, we've got Hall, Gabriel, and then Pedro Porro. So again, we've talked about Hall and Gabriel, touched on Pedro Porro, so again, you really fancy him to go off.
Yeah, I think those are the best three fixtures in game one. So I thought I'd have a piece of each, take all the three with the biggest attacking upside from their defence, and keep it simple.
Perfect. And then in midfield, we've got Saka, who we know you're really bullish on. We've got Son, who you're really happy to have. And then we've kind of got two guys who you haven't got in your draft. We've got Soboslai from Liverpool, and we've got Mohamed Salah. So talk to us about them too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought if I'm going to go for a free hit draft, I may as well try and maximize my upside. And whilst I don't think they're going to blow them away, I should at least give myself the option to do that. I also don't really like many of the Gameweek1 fixtures. I think there's so many unknowns. No one's got any form. So I thought I may as well just keep it simple again and just take Salah and Szoboszlai here.
Perfect. And you've got the armband on Salah as well?
Yeah, I mean, I thought if I'm not going to own him, maybe the free hit squad.
Why not? Yeah, there we go. That's again a bit.
Can I change that actually? Can I change it right now?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
I'm sticking it on Son.
Sticking it on Son. I thought you were going to go with one of the Arsenal boys. I thought you were going to be even more bullish then.
No, I'll go Son. Maybe Saka will get in my own team. Maybe, but I'll go Son.
Perfect. And then we've got up front, we've got Isak, we've got Havertz again, we've touched on, and then we have got Dominic Solanke in the middle there. So no Haaland. Obviously, I know he's in your team, but left him out the free hit team.
Yeah, I mean Chelsea away. Like, there's definitely the potential for him to blank when it's Chelsea away, regardless of the conditions. I just thought if I love the Spurs fixture, let me take a double up there. Isak for obvious reasons, and I've waxed lyrical about Kai Havertz for a while now, so I don't think we need to hear about that.
So I'm going to ask, obviously, on the back of this, it's not too much about the free hit team. The free hit team looks really solid. You've picked kind of triple Tottenham, double Newcastle, and double Liverpool, triple Arsenal, and then obviously Sells in goal. So it looks really solid. I just wanted to hear a little bit more kind of in-depth, like what are your thoughts on Havertz in terms of his positioning? I know you mentioned about you think he'll play 9 in the bigger games, but what do you think of him playing in that 8? Are you still really confident that he can return and deliver consistent returns for FPL?
Yeah, so my thinking is that against Wolves and Brighton, this is just my opinion, and like this is worst case as well. Like I don't think it'll get too much worse than this. I think it'll be Martinelli left wing, Jesus up top, Saka right, Havertz left 8, Zinchenko left back, Odegaard right 8, Rice 6. So you've got Odegaard maybe playing a little bit deeper this year, helping with those earlier phases, right? Just to help with progression a little bit. Then you've got Zinchenko on the switch side, which with his passing, I think again progression won't be too much of an issue. You've then got Havertz in a slightly more optimized left-hand side dynamic where Martinelli's not as shackled to the touchline, so he has a few more combinations available to him. I think Havertz will also be able to get in the box a bit more, just like with the runs that he's going to make, almost a second striker type of role. So with all of that, and the fact that I've seen that in pre-season, it's not just like a theory, I've taken it from what I've seen pre-season. So with all of that, I'm a lot more comfortable picking him, knowing that Jesus probably gets subbed at points, and then Havertz moves to 9. And then against Villa and Spurs, I just think I'll have him at 9 anyway.
Perfect. And then, so outside of the three guys you've got, obviously Gabriel, Saka, and Havertz in your draft, is there any other assets from Arsenal kind of that Arna's spoken about at the moment that you think could be really good for the first few fixtures, or anyone that you're really confident on?
Yeah, I would love to have Saliba. I would have 4 Arsenal players if I could. I would love to have Saliba. I mean, if I could take the 3 biggest threats from set pieces, Havertz, Saliba, and Gabriel, I think I'd get so many goals throughout the season and so many hauls as well. But, you can't have them all. I'm not super keen on Ben White just because he's 0.5 more expensive. And I'd rather take the goal threat from set pieces than the, I guess, assist threat from open play. I had a lot of, I guess, thinking time on Odegaard. I just don't trust his actual goal scoring ability enough for me to pick him. But I did toy with the idea a lot. I don't think it's the worst idea of the world, but you would have to get a bit lucky, I think.
Perfect. And so, what do we think about Declan Rice? I've seen murmurs and whispers about him being a decent asset now. Obviously, he's whipping those corners in. What are your thoughts?
Just a guy who will probably get like around anywhere between 140 to 165 by the end of the season. Maybe like maybe 170, but I can't really envisage that. I guess just like he's on set pieces a lot. He'll score goals from range at times. He'll get some clean sheet points. He's good for 90 minutes. So I get why people would go there. But at that price and the fact that you're blocking another Arsenal asset, I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, perfect. And then, so if you were to if you can see yourself making any kind of more transfers before the deadline tomorrow, what do you think it'll be on your draft?
Maybe move around in Kunku. And the only thing that I can really see is me playing with those 4.5 million slots at the back. I've obviously got three of them. I'm not set on any of them, I don't think, at the moment. Like, they're all been in and out. I've had Robinson for a long time. I'm not super keen on him either, just because I don't think Fulham are going to keep too many clean sheets. But yeah, just the 4.5s. I imagine at least like one, maybe two will stay, but I wouldn't be surprised to see one change.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff. And then I'm just going to jump onto some questions, both we've had through the chat and
Yeah, sure.
on Twitter. So, first one is Mikalenko a good pick, rotated with Robinson, or is it better just paying the extra for Gvardiol? The rotation does allow an upgrade from Odegaard to Saka. So the rotation is Mikalenko and Robinson, or Gvardiol, with a 4.0, I'm guessing, and then Saka or Odegaard.
Saka, I mean the Saka version.
So
1000%.
Saka and the rotation of
Yeah.
Mikalenko and Robinson.
Yeah, so for me, like the way I interpret Guardiola's fixtures from a defensive standpoint for City, I'm not very keen on them. I think Chelsea Gameweek 1, West Ham Gameweek 3, Brentford's always a bit iffy for them, and then Arsenal Newcastle. I think it's pretty awful when it comes to defensive fixtures. I think if another team had that, you would hate it. So I don't think it should be necessarily that different if you're City. I also love Saka as a pick. I think he's going to have a brilliant goal-scoring season. So yeah, I like the Robinson Mikalenko rotation. I don't love the Everton fixtures, but at least you're only playing him in the good ones, right? And
Yeah.
they're a solid defense. So yeah.
And then, just a point on the back of that answer. Are you talking yourself into a Saka captain?
I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm not sure I trust I don't trust Arsenal's spread of output for me to captain one of their assets Gameweek 1. I would like to see exactly how it is in a Premier League game before I do so, but I wouldn't be adverse to it. I'm more likely to captain Son if I don't captain Haaland than anyone else. Maybe Isak.
Perfect, good stuff. I was just checking to make sure you weren't.
Actually, you know what? Son captaincy when no one owns him could be really interesting Gameweek 1. Really interesting. Have a little bout with Salah. That's actually not a bad chat.
In my very first draft that I did, I had Son captain. I actually had no Haaland and no Salah, and had a 3 premium midfield, and had Son as captain, and I've talked myself out of it ever since. So yeah, definitely. I think it's a really good idea.
I know. I hadn't thought about it really.
Yeah, it's definitely something. So, couple in the chat are saying Isak captain is a lock. Obviously, you've got it on Haaland. I've got it on Haaland. Is the any reason why it shouldn't be Isak? Is it just that Haaland's Haaland and that's kind of it?
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Isak. Nothing at all. I'm probably if I go Haaland, or just because, like you said, he's Haaland. I don't have a single bad thing to say about Isak captain. I think he'll do very well.
And then FPL Santa Claus in the chat said, "I have Son and Saka. Is it too much?" Sorry, Son and Solanke. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, I toyed with this question as well myself to see if I could fit in. I think Gameweek 1 to 3, the fixtures are so good and they'll score goals. So I'll say no. I think it's fine to have them both, honestly. There's huge upside there when the most of the field won't have them, and Spurs create a lot of chances. Backing Spurs early last year helped me massively. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Perfect. Obviously, some of the guys have said music to my ears as a Havertz owner that you've been waxing lyrical about him as well. So I think you've given a lot of people some good news tonight. And then Mikalenko or Mitchell. Obviously, Mitchell's playing that kind of wing-back role for Palace now under Glasner. And Mikalenko is your kind of Sean Dyche left-back, if you like, who will just get up and down for fun all day and do his job. What are your thoughts there?
I'll go Mitchell because I quite like the wing back role. Whilst I don't like Palace's fixtures, I really do like what I see in terms of Glasner's imprint on the team and their performance levels. So I'm going to go Mitchell.
Perfect. And then someone's asked for your thoughts on Eze with the transfer rumours whirling.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a difficult one, right? Like everyone's had an up and down phase with Eze. Uh, I don't. I'll tell you yesterday, I didn't think he was going to go. With a Bob injury, I wouldn't be surprised if it triggers a little bit of anger within them, and they're like, you know what, there's a checkbook. There you go, Palace, take the money. I just don't think it's a good transfer for him to go. I think maybe like if he could leave in a season and go somewhere where he gets a bit more minutes regularly,
Yeah.
that would be better. Because I don't think at City he's ever going to be a 90-minute man week in week out. Or maybe he could. I just don't think it'll happen from the start. So I don't think he's going to leave.
So even with the transfer rumours, do you not think it's worth taking Brentford and West Ham, or are you worth just waiting and just leaving Eze out the side altogether?
I think without Elise and without Mateta, given his good like relationship with Palace, I think he's going to play regardless.
Yeah.
And I think he'll play 90 and be on pens. So honestly, I'm not too worried about that particular thing.
So if people are positive enough about him, you think it's not a bad pick to leave him in there and kind of just, if he goes, take him out. If he stays, then great. You've got everything we thought we had in Eze.
Yeah, I mean, like the only way I can see him not playing is if the deal is literally done and like and then Glaston's like, all right, you can, it's cool. But if the deal's still like loitering, I think he's got a good enough relationship with Palace that he'll play.
Perfect. And then basically another question that's come in has said, have at any point you considered going without Haaland and Salah? So obviously I touched on it before about some of the drafts I had, but have you ever thought about it from a cost point of view, or having all of those premium midfielders in there?
So I was very anti-Salah until about yesterday. I'm still anti-Salah, just not as much. And then I started toying with ideas of like, oh, what if I go no Haaland and stuff. In terms of going without both of them, no, because the thing about going without both of them is you have to be right so often because you're not getting the best two captains right over the entire season. So you're going to constantly have to nail your captain. And if you fail with Haaland and Salah, all right, whatever, everyone's got him captained anyway, right? But if you don't hit, you're gonna have to make up so much ground. I don't think you're gonna hit every week either. You'll captain like a good player in a good fixture, and they'll blank, and Haaland or Salah will go parabolic, and your rank will tank because of it. And then how are you meant to catch up? Because if one of them just does well, you're losing double points every week.
Yeah, it's the same point that I come back to after creating those drafts of. I was looking at the first 3-4 game weeks and thinking I've got great captain options for all of those fixtures, but then, like you say, you've just got to be right week in, week out, and you've got to hope that they bang on that weekend at the same rate or close to what Haaland and Salah are doing as captain. So I've kind of always been no Salah all the way through. But
the other thing, sorry.
No, okay.
The other thing is, I lost my train of thought there. Oh, that's it. Who would you even buy if you don't have Haaland and Salah? Like, yeah, sure, you free up the funds, but the next best alternatives aren't even that impressive. What do? You just stack your team with Son, Palmer, Saka, Watkins. But yeah, sure, but like Palmer and Watkins still don't facilitate anything particularly amazing. Like you can have Haaland and not have Salah and still have like Trent, Guardiola, etc. So you can get Nkunku for 4 million less than Palmer. I just don't think. If there were better options and like a lot of people in that 11 million range, then yeah, sure, fair enough. But I just don't think there are.
Yeah, and again, I can echo that point. I think in the early drafts I had, this was long before we knew who was coming back from training. I think I had Foden, Son, Saka, and then like you say, I had a forward line that was Isak, Havertz, and someone else really, and another kind of mid-price forward. So it definitely feels like you've got a stacked team, but then you're just trying to convince yourself that Haaland and Saka are going to kind of. Haaland and Salah are just going to not do what they always do and score goals and rack up the points. So, yeah, I think everyone's considered it at some point just because of the funds, but I think everyone kind of comes around to the senses after a little while.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Thomas in the chat has asked, he's got Bruno and said, do you think he's a good long-term option? Or is it just short-term with the fixtures? You think long-term, great hold?
Yeah, I mean, you've got good fun. This is the way I'd see it with Bruno is you've got great fundamentals, right, from an FPL standpoint. What I would be looking at is how many chances are United creating in a game? What's his role? Is he dropping in deeper? How much responsibility does Mainu have to progress? Like, is some of that offset to Rashford because United are struggling as a side? I'd be looking at all of those things, and if they're all right for Bruno, then yeah, you can just definitely hold him long term.
Perfect. I tend to agree. To be honest, obviously there's a couple of rough fixtures in there early on. You've got obviously Liverpool at Old Trafford, which hasn't been great for United in the recent past. Spurs again at Old Trafford and Villa away. But outside of that, I think you've got really good fixtures: Fulham, Brighton, Southampton, Palace away. Palace may be a shadow of the team they were last year. By the time we get to there, if they lose Anderson, Gueye, Eze, um, so
Elise,
yeah,
maybe.
Elise's gone obviously. So yeah, I definitely think there's some really good fixtures in there. And then once you get up to kind of game week 7 and 8, you've really got a good run for United. Where they really don't face any kind of top four sides for a good 6 or 7 weeks. So he's definitely a good long term hold for me. And the reason why I've talked about maybe bringing him in that swap for Gordon and Diaz. Um, and then pretty much, I think we're all there. Let me just check. Yeah, that's all the questions we've had. So, Gian, just quickly, obviously, just give the guys a run
Mm.
through of kind of where to find your content, where's the best place to catch you, and ask you any questions or really try and pick your brains.
Yeah, sure. So you can just DM me or comment on one of the posts at FPL underscore GMBatra on Twitter. You can also find me at FPL GMBatra on YouTube, and then I'll be doing a bunch of stuff on the hub, like team reveals and YouTube videos with Jack and stuff like that as well.
Perfect, good stuff. And obviously, we are the FPL Lounge is live lounges across Twitter. We are on Instagram and also on YouTube. So please do like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe, please, guys. I just want to say a big thank you to Gian for joining us and taking kind of the leap of faith of joining us as a first guest. Um, you are a big account in the FPL world, so it definitely has some weight when you join the stream, mate. So thank you very much from me.
No
Um,
worries, pleasure.
and yeah, hopefully we'll catch up again soon on another stream. Maybe see how you're getting on with those Arsenal boys in a few weeks.
Yeah, my cousin's around right now. The first thing he said to me is how many Arsenal players you got as a joke. As well. So yeah, we'll see.
Perfect, good stuff, mate. Well, thanks everyone for joining tonight, and we'll call it a night there. Cheers.